Hey guys, welcome back to Talking Story with Uncle Joe. Hey, still working on figuring out my titles and stuff for this stuff, but I want to talk today about possibly the future of what God's called you to do. That I feel like in my book, a lot of times what happens is I'm going into these situations, and a lot of the situations that I get into personally in the book, they're not orchestrated. They're not something that I plan on having happen or anything like that. So what ends up happening is I go down, I'm just praying, doing whatever. I mean, it's my daily walk. It's what I do every day. It's not something that just happens at 7 o'clock on a Friday night. But when you're walking and you're trying to figure out what God's trying to do with you, once you have that vision in your life, once you know what your path is, I guess, you know your future, you know where you're going, you kind of know what you want to do, then as you start walking down that path, you'll see different things happen in your life. And basically what this next story is really about, there's some humor in it. There's a lot of times where just funny things, will go down. You see things, you do things. I don't want to freak everybody out, man. I don't know what your guys' beliefs are, but what I'm looking to do is just share what I know to be true in my life. So, and that doesn't mean everything that goes on is perfect. It doesn't mean everything's going to be for everybody. There's a lot of battles in the churches about the spiritual stuff. Some people just like to sit there and read the old King James, which is fine. I respect the Bible. Don't care what version it is that you read, but it's all God's word. It's all there for us. I kind of look at it is the way that you look at an owner's manual. You buy something, you get your car, or you get a new part, or you got to work on something, and you go to your owner's manual to look at it, and there's English. There's like 200 different languages in there. Okay, but they all mean the same thing. It's just everybody's language is different. Everything's laid out differently. So what I would say is just when I'm reading the Bible, there's some days where it just, boom, it pops out and everything's great and you know what you're doing. And then there's been other days where I'm just struggling. I open that thing up, man, and I can't figure out what God's trying to say. I can't figure out what direction I'm supposed to be going that day and everything else. And that's one of the things that, for me in my walk, I'm not an educated guy. So God continually has me doing hands-on stuff. I'm not a sit down, study the Bible, go out and preach it from a pulpit guy. I'm more the guy that goes out and shares my testimony, or goes out and just sits with people, and I want to know what their issues are, and I want to just sit there and listen. Sometimes you're just listening, man, and you don't have to always talk. You don't always have to say something. Just listening to people and their situation a lot of times will help them out. It will help them get through what they're looking to get through. So what ends up happening with me, I go out and I surf, I'm doing my thing, and certain days guys would just paddle up to me and be like, "Hey man, what's up?" Like, "Hey, how's your day going, man? Did you have a good week?" You just start talking to people, and you realize that some funny, hilarious, scary things happen in those times. And this story is about a guy, and I'm down at the beach and I'm doing my thing, and I'd seen this guy 20 times, 30 times. I knew who he was. I knew he was part of a surf team there in town, and I'm sitting there, and he's suiting up, or I'm suiting up. We're watching the surf a little bit, and I throw my wetsuit on, and all of a sudden I look at his board, and it's just got like 1 foot letters that says F you. Like, it says it, boom, right there. And then it says Satanic Death Chant 99 on it. And I was just like, it was weird, like strange. Like, I'm like, hey man, what's up with that on your board? and obviously when people do that, most people don't come up and go, hey man, what's up with that? So he's not used to being confronted, and he's kind of a tough looking kid, or he's trying to be. And I just go, hey man, what's up with that on your board, dude? He goes, oh, it's just a joke. Oh, okay, it's a joke, cool, that's funny. I'm like, the dumbest joke I've ever heard in my life. But I'm like, a joke? And he goes, yeah. And I sat there for a minute and I just kind of thought to myself, and then I just made a comment to this kid, and I said, it's weird to me that people will make a joke out of stuff like that. It's offensive. It's talking about the satanic thing. I go, it's just, I don't understand why that's a joke. And he goes, oh, it's just something that we threw a party and that's what we named it and this and that. And I go, oh, okay. I go, I wonder why nobody ever jokes about Jesus like that. Like, I mean, if it's funny, it's funny, but it's not, it's offensive. And I just told him, I said, you ever think about that? Like, would you be offended, or would you think it was funny if I put, something on my board about religion or my belief? If I put F you and then put, the Jesus Movement 99 or something like that, it's offensive. And he just kind of looked at me all serious, and he was just like, dude. And I grabbed my board and I go, so you surfing or what, dude? And he's like, no, man, you ruined my day. You ruined my whole day. I don't want to surf now. And I just kind of laughed, this kid's tatted all the way up to his throat, all the way down on his hands. And, he hung out down in the ghetto where all the surf, they called it the surf ghetto. I think they still do. It's where all the surf companies shape and glass and everything. And I'd seen him several times at my buddy's shop, around the shop and stuff. So a couple days later, they're having a big party in town, and they would lock all the roads down. And it was basically just an outdoor party in the Pier Bowl area. And our street was one of the roads that was shut down, but everybody would just go out. They had bands, they had, all the trailers with drinking and I mean, it was just an all out party. And here this kid comes stumbling up the street, man. And all of a sudden I see like 4 dudes. I just got done. I guess I offended the kid, but I just met the kid at the beach a couple days before. And here we are on a Saturday, and all of a sudden these 4 dudes right in front of my house. I'm looking out the window, I'm watching people walk up and down the street all drunk. And all of a sudden these 4 dudes jump the fence, and they jump out of their yard, and they just start pummeling this kid. Right in the middle of the street, they're just beating him silly. I jump out there, I break it up, throw a couple guys off the kid. I'm like, whoa, and kind of send the guys on their way. I go, it's cool, dude, and you made your point. And they were beating this kid pretty bad. And he looked up at me, and he realized it was me from the beach. It's only 2 times we've really seen each other in a couple years that I lived there at that point. And he just looked up at me, and he just kind of, I go, hey man, you good? He goes, yeah, why'd you do that? I go, I don't know, dude, it's the right thing to do, man. He's like, all right, whatever, and he took off and left. The next day he comes back and knocks on my door, and he's like, hey man, thank you. I was in trouble, man. I appreciate you keeping me from getting the beat down and stuff. I go, no, man. And he goes, I'm sorry if my board offended you. I go, no, it didn't offend me, dude. I go, I grew up saying that, doing stupid stuff. I just don't think it's something you should portray if that's not your heart. Like, I don't think there's a joke in you don't walk around telling somebody you're Christian if you're not a Christian. It's not a joke. You don't go around telling them you're Mormon, Hindu, Buddhist, any of that. It's not something people joke about. I go, and I'm not sure why you would joke about it in that situation, saying that you're going to these satanic things and stuff. He goes, I don't know, it's just something we put on our boards because we think it's like rebellious and stuff. And I go, it is. I go, I understand. I go, dude, I was into that stuff when I was a kid. I go, but you gotta understand that it makes you look stupid. It makes you look like something you're not. I go, you're a nice kid, dude. You're well-mannered. You're from a good family. Like, why do you want to be a punk like that? Like, just be yourself, dude. You're a cool kid. And he just looked at me and he goes, man, thank you so much, dude. And the funny thing is, you guys, I never saw this kid again. And a couple days later, this guy that he was part of a pretty gnarly, everybody knows him, I'm not going to say it, but they're an industry troublemaker kind of surf company, and they kind of thrive on that, the dark side and stuff, and that's cool. I got friends that are their artists and whatnot, but it's a pretty well-known company. And here this one of their top surfers comes and you know, again, fully tatted, you know, and we're talking, man, and this kid is just so messed up. He's so lost, and he's just like, Joe, man, I don't know what my life's gonna be, dude. I'm gonna be dead before I'm 18 years old. And you know, again, you guys, I start flashing back, and I'm like, God, this is the same thing. My dad used to tell me, you're gonna be a drug dealing high school dropout, and you'll be dead before you're 18 years old. And I'm just like, that was my inspirational talks from my step parents. And here I am, I'm flashing back, and I'm like, man, I'm like, dude, you don't have to live that way, bro. Like, you're not even 18. Like, you got so much ahead of you. But at that age, at 16, 17, when you're already battling in life, you can't imagine being 50. You know, you can't imagine your life 20, 30 years later. Like, you just can't even, if the first 16 years of it has been hell, how is the next 30 gonna be okay, or the next 10 or 5? And that was what he was saying was, dude, I have no idea what I'm gonna do with my life. And the one thing that people don't understand is when you put your life, like in a professional world, people that are professional surfers, I've actually ran into a couple of them at competitions and whatnot, because with my ministry, we would go and we would pray for the surfers. We would go and just be there. And I got to be a point where I'd go to the North Shore of Oahu, and guys would walk up and go, hey, Joe, what's up? Like, they knew who I was. And and one day I was sitting there, and a pro surfer that had just broke his ankle, Pipe Masters going on, everybody's there. I'm sitting at the table with 6 professional surfers, the #1 seated surfer in the world, sitting there eating lunch, and I'm sitting by him and I'm listening to this conversation, and it's about how this one guy's getting ready to get voted off the list because he's injured. And the sad part is you could hear the pain in his voice, because this guy's been surfing. He's from Orange County, where we were from originally, and here we are, we're on the North Shore of Oahu, sitting in the little cafe up there and eating breakfast, and this guy's talking about how he's getting ready, his friends, the ones he's sitting at the table with, are gonna vote him out of the tour ranking because he's injured. They're gonna put him on the injured list. But what that does is everybody, I think he was ranked number 2 or 3, everybody ranked in there moves up. So by him being gone, even though it's their friend, by him being out because he's injured, they all bump up 1 level, and it gets them closer to the top. And they're all sitting there, and man, it was heartbreaking to listen to. And my friend Joey and I, we were there together, and I go, man, I gotta go talk to this dude. So I get up and I walk to the table. I mean, we're right next to him, and I just leaned over and I go, hey man, I go, listening to your guys' conversation and stuff, and I was like, can I pray for you? Dude, I feel bad for you. Like, do you mind if I pray? He goes, yeah. I go, because I believe that God can heal you. And I go, I don't know if you believe in God or not. And he goes, well, I never really thought about it, man. He goes, but hey, if God can heal me. And he took his foot and threw it up on the table. And he goes, let's do this. So here I am, I'm standing in this restaurant, everybody's eating, and everybody's looking at us. And my friend Joey and I, we lay hands on this guy, and we start praying for his ankle. And we got these, like I said, the top 6 rated surfers in the world right now Surf and Pipe Masters, and you know, I don't remember actually. I'm sorry, I don't remember if it was Pipe Master or if it was the Triple Crown. I can't remember which one it was, but they were all there. And we pray for him, and when I look up, like three out of the 6 guys were crying, like they were teared up, dude. They're like, dude, that was heavy, and I just asked God to heal his foot, and if it was his will to keep him going and to give him peace if it's not, and give him a future if surfing's not it. And he looked at me and he said, thanks, man. And they were talking about how he would never surf professionally again. He would never be a competitor again. And that's what was scaring him, because that's all he had known since he was little. And it's funny because I think it was probably a year later, somebody sent me a headline, because I had told that story before. And somebody sent me a headline, and he had won the main competition of the year. I don't remember which one it was one of the Oahu ones, but he won. A year later, the dude that was never supposed to be able to compete again won one of the big ranked surf competitions, and it was on the headlines in Orange County, and because he's from there. And I never got to see him again. I never ran into him again. And one of the things that really affected me at that point in my life was just, it doesn't matter who somebody is, man. You can be a professional, but if you're a professional and you're doing what God wants you to do, you're gifted in that, and all of a sudden it's taken from you, or there's a fear of it being taken from you. There is a mass fear and a mass emptiness that comes with that fear. And that's why a lot of people panic. That's why when musicians that are getting older and they see that they're not as good looking, or you know, their voices are changing or whatever, all of a sudden they're struggling in life. And it's not about who they are in the future. It's what did you do when you were there? Like, that's your legacy, is what did you do when you were there? So when you leave that legacy, you don't need to be afraid of being a legend later on. You don't need to be afraid of that. Just manage your life properly. And when the time comes, because it comes for everybody, when the time comes, you do it gracefully. You stay a legend, a positive example for kids, a positive example for people in the world. And rather than being a negative example, or that story where everybody goes, man, you know, dude was at the top of the world and, you know, he just disappeared or committed suicide or stuff like that. And I mean, it's a brutal reality in fame, you know. And again, my son and I, he was a little dude, we're skating in San Clemente at a skate park. And again, the #1 ranked skater in the world at the time had a big show on TV, was doing his thing. He's from San Clemente. He comes up, and my son's like 8 or 9 years old, and you know, he was already boosting air, so everybody was watching him. He's a pretty popular kid in the skate world, and we're skating the park in San Clemente, and he goes, Dad, that's so and so. Oh my gosh, dude! Every board this kid had this guy's name on it, and I'm like, okay, dude. So they're skating, and he's kind of shy. Toby is, so at the time, and so I go up and I go, hey man, are you so and so? And he's like, yeah man, I am. What can I do for you? I go, hey dude, my son just talks about you all the time, only rides your boards, you know. And he goes, yeah, I'm actually just coming off of an injury. I disappeared for a while because I busted my ankle. And we're sitting there and we're talking to super cool dude, man, and real down to earth. And we're sitting there talking. He took a picture with Toby. He inspired Toby. Toby told him we lived in Kauai, and he said, man, if I ever get over there, because a couple of guys, Danny Way had a house over there, and we weren't far from that. And he built a big mega ramp in a ditch over there. And he's like, yeah, we're supposed to be coming over there to skate the ramp and this and that. He goes, but I busted my ankle, and I'm just trying to get back to where I can compete. They're saying I might not, same story, might not be able to compete anymore, might not be at a pro level anymore, as far as riding safely for himself and his health. And he was stressing, and I mean, he was worth millions of dollars at the time. And it's like, he took off, hey man, thanks for the picture, blah, blah, blah. And he took off, him and his friend. and they went to get in their car. And we were just sitting there, and Toby's like, Dad, I want to go pray for him. I think we're supposed to pray for him. So I go, well, get over there, dude, before he leaves, and ask him if it's okay. So he goes over and he asks this kid, you know, hey man, do you mind if we pray for you? And the guy's like, yeah, of course, bro, that would be awesome, you know, and nobody's ever done that. And we start praying for him, and we get done, and there was 3 of us at the time. One of our friends from Hawaii was with us, and we get done praying for him. And when we said amen again, he's crying. His best friend that's there with him is crying. And we don't see him again. We try to communicate, but you know, it's hard to communicate with pros, and you guys give them a break, man. It's hard. They have a busy life. And we didn't really communicate with them at all and stuff, but he would go on and win the X Games. He held the record, I believe, in the X Games, Mega Rams and whatnot for a while. But he would go on and win 2 or 3 more X Games that I watched on TV after that. So again, when they were down, just that little bit of faith that my son had. Here's another pro, he's stressing, doesn't know what his world's gonna be like. He's barely in his 20s. And all of a sudden, he's like, dude, oh my gosh, and he's crying. He said thank you, and he left. And then we see it, because we watch skating a lot. We see him winning. We see him buying a business. We see him succeeding in life. And it made me proud, because when God calls you to do something and you do it, you may or may not see the fruit of it. And in these situations, I got to see the fruit. Now, I've never talked to those guys again. I've never seen them again personally. And I've tried to reach out, but like I said, they're busy. I get it, you know. But I know one of these days we're going to be able to sit and talk, and they're going to know. And if they see these videos, they're going to know they're going to know me. They're going to know Toby. They're going to know that it was us that did it, because that stuff doesn't happen every day in your life. And the one thing that I wanted wasn't for them to go, oh man, Joe prayed for me, Toby prayed for me, and I got healed. What I wanted was for them to see that God loved them enough in their situation that he was willing to heal them. He heard their heart the same way I did. He heard their broken hearts. And by sharing that, it opened up the doors for God to use a miracle, because they were hurting and they were down. So my point in all this is when you're down and you're at the bottom, that's when God hears us the best, because our real heart comes out. We're not pretending. It's not a made up prayer, and it's sincere. And in the next one, I'm going to talk to you guys about how when I got to Kauai, I had gotten there, and basically all hell broke loose. The guy that was supposed to hire me offered me $44 an hour. I went over there and worked for him for 2 weeks for free to see what was up. And I moved my whole family to Kauai thinking I was gonna be working for this guy, helping him build his plumbing company. And I got there and he goes, oh, I'll give you 14. I just bought a house, I just shipped all my stuff, left everything I knew. Tells me I can only pay you $14 an hour, which wasn't even labor wages, and I'm a master plumber. And what it was I scared the guy, because I was a little more professional than he was. He was worried I was going to take his business. But you know, those types of things, when you get into, I got so lost, and I started going to God, and I would catch myself in a field when I didn't have work for a month, and I was struggling. I would go out and I'd start talking to God, and there was days where I'd go out in the field and I'd just be like, dude, here I am. Either use me, do something with me, or strike me dead. I don't care, but I need you to show up. And I would leave that field after yelling at God with everything I had, and I'd have a crazy ministry. Didn't help my business at all, but what it was it helped my ministry. Like, I would go down, and that day God would give me favor in Kauai to do things that, as far as I know, no other haole had done before, from what the locals told me. And it would start something, and I would catch myself doing that a lot with God. And I would encourage you guys, don't be afraid to get in there and get real with God, because when he sees your hearts, when it moves, that's when things start changing. So hope you have a good day. We'll talk to you on the next one. I'll finish that story in the next video, and hopefully you guys are liking these. Please make sure that you tell somebody that needs it. I hope it's encouraging you for the day and giving you something to smile about. And don't forget to subscribe, write me, let me know what you guys think about this stuff, and look forward to seeing you next time.